Hello, everyone. I happened to wake up this morning and I had another connection with Edgar Allan Poe, who began to tell me about someone by the name of Draku. Draku is a leader of the Draconians. Now, in the past I've talked about Draconis, who was another leader, as well as there was a Draxhala, and which is Droxala Drusilla. It's a combination of male and female. So we've had, a few different ones that have risen up and been aggressive, and they're essentially, kind of like an underworld creature. And I know some people put them on a pedestal and think that they're glamorous and, powerful and this and that, but they're really a very, very low vibrational being. And anyhow, this is the message that I got from a particular group under the allegiance to someone called Draku, but I couldn't help but think about Dracula when he said that. So it made me think, particularly because of some of the things that were said. So I'm just going to allow you to hear the message. I have Rolf reading this through for me, and then in the end I'll discuss it a little bit more in depth.
Within the darkest Draco den stood Draku with all his Draco men. A smell of rotting flesh inside, a human male he called his bride. I opened my eyes to see no more, 100 million score or more. The creatures breeded more and more, a bit of DNA, a bit of blood. They blended well with Anshar droves. The mixture of them made these toads. A toad of shiny yellow-white, the Anshar genetics with albino eyes, mixed with Draco's serpent lizard flesh. It made a strange mix with human flesh. A primordial group, oh, say no more. The creatures grew to grotesque forms. An oozing smell was more their form. A skunk was sweet when compared to them. A breath of life was wasted then, and creatures more hideous than monsters there. A cry of mimic, a woman in despair. They brought on all emotions as if they were fair. Deceit is a tricky game they play. They say they are one thing, then change straight away. The emotions, the compassion that they conjure from men, then they suck out their life force to do it again. The creatures are void of all that is good, so they harvest the humans that humans don't know. They only see the power promised and the illusions of a glow. The glow is the yellow light in between, the hidden spaces of the astral lit scene. They climb the ladder, or so it may seem, but it is a downward spiral where they go to destiny. One said, "You have my destiny, my friend," but in fact no one can hold the destiny of one another, and so the lies continue to spin and bend. I will awake the many children of Eve, the dawning children who waited by the trees. I will pervert them and coax them with liquid dreams. I will shake them, awake them into being with thieves. We are takers, they said. Why wait for divine source to give us our place? we will take and take from the human race, and when we are finished, the divine is our next place. We will take from the widow, the powerless child. We will take from the homeless and the prisoner on an isle. We will take from their kingdom and kingdoms without end, and when we are finished, we will pervert the rest to bend. They will bow to us and beg us to bed them. Our shape-shifting minds will allow us to manipulate them and see all that they desire. It will go on until humanity is gone, and all that is left is the human bride that helped us do all of this harm. There is only one, and one will it be, the only one we will not defeat. He will stand there shining, sparkling eyes like a sunlit sea, and his skin will be young like a young man should be. I ask them, do you feel that you can really carry through with these outlandish crimes that you intend to do? Do you think the human race is that naive to watch and wait for you to take all their innocent and the vulnerable ones at the gate? I will hold you responsible for the very thought alone of what you plan. I will make sure all humanity, all upper courts understand. We will not stand by as you breed this new race. We will not tolerate any of your vile intentions in any case. Your day is done before it began. Time is slipping fast like a backward hourglass of sand. You are not what you think. Actually, your brain is quite small. The only power you have is the knowledge of the fall. The children are now wiser. They have learned a thing or two. Now that we have finished with the judgment of Revolution 1 of humanity against Revolution number 2. The pre-Adamic race, the revolution of humankind. Before this present group, you integrated their minds. You told them to be corrupt, to betray their own children too. It was a great destruction on an entire species that was new. You tried to do it again, but have failed so desperately. This second revolution was much wiser than you see. So you tried to hybridize all living creatures, both far and wide, a hint of human soul, and you thought you had it all. I say it once and I say it twice. You are not to treat humans like lab mice. So you now have our fury and the fate of the undead. You will listen to everything I say and everything I said. There was a ruling not long ago, you see. The case that the second revolution of humanity accused this current humans of blasphemy was not proven and had no cause. Their case fell on deaf ears because they were a witness to all. The first revolution of humanity, the pre-Adamic race, who you trained and deceived, will win nothing more and will be dealt with accordingly. The new ruling says the second revolution is finally free. So you see, you creatures of boiling ooze, you have naught to say because you already lose. We have liberated the children and all Adamic groups, and the others will have to wait for their verdict too. But as for you and your plans, I thought I might inform you again. It is merely but a wave of a hand, and you will be but a fable in the land.
Okay, so that's pretty much what Edgar Allan Poe had to say regarding what happened here with this encounter that he had with Draku, who he kind of shares a conversation that he had with him. So he's saying that supposedly there is this human male that he's enamored by, and then he that's part of his prize or something that he's holding on to. But anyhow, he then goes on to talk about how that they had made hybrids of the Dracos with the Anshar, which I thought was interesting, and it turned them, the young ones look like small toads, or shiny yellow and white, because the Anshar, generally are kind of albino looking, and I've been seeing them for a while now. He starts to talk a bit about some of the conversation. You can see the conversation's not very good, and talk about how they're tricky and deceitful, and how they manipulate humans, and what their intentions are toward humans. And then we start getting into the discussion about Rev 1. Rev 1 is a pre-Adamic race that got flooded, and I think even part of it could have been like a fast freeze, which I've seen in the past with the one they call Cain, and I saw him and a whole society or civilization just turn to ice. And I know that some people are worried about the glaciers melting, and that this might be bringing in these energies. It could be. It could very well be. But I'm getting back to the topic here. The discussion about Rev 1 is this pre-Adamic race that actually jumped the bridge into our reality. So they time traveled into the future and came here to knowing that their society was going to get destroyed by the flood, and then feeling that humanity, the second revolution of humanity, should not survive, that they should also be eligible for the same fate that they had experienced because of their behavior was similar. But I also discovered that Rev 1 was trying to manipulate and trying to kind of bring Rev 2 into a lower vibration consciousness by exposing them to all sorts of behaviors, activities, probably I don't know if it's a pedo stuff, or just really, really bad behavior, and then point the finger and saying, look, this revolution of humans should be destroyed as well, and therefore, there should be an apocalypse, there should be some problems. And so here Poe said that, it was discovered just the contrary. It looks like the Dracos got into the game and were supporting this Maximus Rufus, which I called that this is the jump gate from Rev 1 to Rev 2. And the Dracos and the Anshar, and probably other groups, species that want to see the purging and cleansing of humanity off the earth, are collected together to get involved in all of this. And so we have so many that are like, saying, hey, look, the reptilians are wonderful, the Dracos are wonderful, and, they're part of the illusion, the game, and the destruction of humanity, whether most of them are not aware of it. But this is the level of trickery that's going on. And we have to be all the wiser. You really can't, if you're, halfway awakened, you're going to see that some of these agendas are very, blaringly obvious. And so it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to grow up emotionally and not feel like we have to have an allegiance with this one or that one. It has nothing to do with any of it. It's, are we here to be manipulated and deceived, or are we here to be sovereign and independent and this is a part of it. And so this is the conversation of how it all came about. But as you can see, it's quite complex, and I'm sure that this is still only a fragment of what's been going on. So anyhow, in the end, I guess there was a ruling that the second revolution is finally free. Well, it doesn't mean that they're 100% free, but at least not accused of doing the things that were manipulated and imposed on humanity from Rev 1, in addition to the other species that would like to see humanity destroyed so they can take on the entire planet by themselves, or have the planet for themselves for whatever purpose, or impose the slave system that we're aware of. Anyhow, that's pretty much it. I know that some people might think that this information is somewhat negative, but if we're not willing to look at some of the problems, then we're not able to fix them. If we keep on ignoring what is in front of us, that there are major issues, that there are species that are here to deceive us, if we refuse to look at things, if we keep drinking the Kool-Aid, we're not going to get any further on. And so unfortunately it comes off negative, but it's not about being negative. As you can see, I started talking about Rev 1 for a couple of years now. A couple of years ago I started bringing this up, and people didn't understand what I was talking about. They couldn't imagine that anyone from the first revolution of humanity, or at least the real, recorded group of humanity, coming over through a jump gate. They just couldn't imagine that. But why not? When there's time traveling going on in our generation, why wouldn't it be? Because they're even more advanced than we are now. We've actually lost a lot of knowledge. And so almost like there was more of a naivety and innocence in the second revolution of humanity. So they already have another group that they'd like to bring in. And, let's not accommodate them. Let's stay awake, keep our eyes open, and stay informed. And any of you that has some comments to add to this discussion, please do. And let's continue being diligent. And as I could say, it starts off like a negative message, but in the end, it looks like that this is one area that we have been successful in, is that is proving that humanity is not in the same situation as they were prior to the flood. So that's a good thing. Thank you for listening, everyone, and hanging on as I kind of sift through and sort through all of this information.